Warning, this broadcast is for mature audiences only. Do not attempt to perform similar stunts with your own FileMaker servers unless you're trying to get the attention of your boss. The server crashes in today's broadcast are performed by certified professionals. Do not attempt this at home. Viewer discretion is advised. Pretty awesome. A day is never complete unless you blow something up. I'm a serious believer in aggressive use of explosives while demoing your technology. So everyone, welcome to another great day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, broadcasting in high definition on Twitch, YouTube, and Discord at fmtraining.tv, where every day, Monday through Friday, we do a live stream and we're interacting with you. This will be a lot less fun if everyone is quiet. I need everyone to kind of like chime in, preferably on topic, but if you have nothing to say, at least tell us your name and your city you're from. The Discord people don't have to do that unless there's someone who has a very interesting call sign and I forget where you're from. Like Stu, I forget where you're from, for example. But feel free to let us know where you're from. That's always useful on Twitch. Oh, Carol from Oakland's there. Welcome, Carol. So if you see me looking over like this way, I'm looking at the Discord and the conversation. If I look over this way, I'm looking at no one. So that's the plan. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking about the FileMaker robot. If you have done FileMaker development for any period of time, you've gotten yourself into a position where you're like, damn, this is slow. And it's possible, very possible that licks, not licks need I just reversed my syllables. Licks need design. Nick's lean design is not enough. We love Nick, but sometimes, Nick ain't enough. You need more horsepower. We need more help. You get a robot because Nick ain't enough. Lean design is great. You can do actually a lot. In fact, the lean design even applies to how you do build robots. So let's talk about the upcoming broadcast schedule. So if you go to fmtraining.tv, we have this really great website right here, fmtraining.tv. You can see the tabs right here. You see live training. You can see the upcoming broadcast schedule. We are kind of running out of topics. We've covered everything in the world under FileMaker. We're really out of things to discuss. So I've told people we're going to be discussing TK's personal private life with all his girlfriends and mistresses, unless some of you come up with a topic for Tuesday. So today is about robots. Tomorrow's Inspector Paint, kind of more of an open Q&A day. So if you're more of a beginning FileMaker person, Megan, if you have questions about stuff, even random off-topic questions, tomorrow's kind of going to be a little bit more freewheeling. Friday, Kyle Williams is supposed to come in and talk about his command control and communications charting. So as a reminder, if you value the training today, the conversation today, what we're going to do today is a little interesting. I'm going to pop out a video, a specific video from our training course. It's highly animated. You're going to see why our training course, people love it. It is awesome. Largely because I spent a ton of money making it awesome. I make it so I could learn because I forget things. So what I do is I make videos that will educate me about the things I've already forgotten. So we're going to be covering that today on robots. So what is a FileMaker robot, right? We need to bring that up. And then Jacob Taylor, of course, is here. Jacob, are you there? We're going to show your face briefly here. Jacob, say hi to everyone.
Hi.
This is Jacob. So I'm going to go through kind of my video because it already animates and explains this. But if you had my paid training, right, then you would be able to go and pick the topics and watch the animations. That's what I was trying to say. I kind of got distracted by Jacob's sexy good looks, which is a problem for me.
My apologies for distracting him.
Yeah, I know. You need to put a bag over your head or something, right? So let me go to back to FM training. So if you're here and you want to buy the video training, please go over here, buy one of the video training. We have a 2-year deal. We have a 1-year deal. This is where you get unlimited. It's 90 hours of animated videos, 90 hours. People at Claire's have no idea this exists for the most part, right? They just don't, right? So we operate out here in the hithers of the wildland outside of the building we call the box. They used to be at a building called the Wedge. Now they work at a building when they come to work called the box, and it's very interesting. So so check that out. So you go to fmtrain.tv, press the bundles button, check that out. If you have questions that you wanted to ask us offline, send an email to support@RC Consulting. And Margaret?
Yes.
Margaret, are you there? Are you prepared to?
I am.
Okay, so what we're going to do is you're going to keep an eye out for ideas, yes, in doing that?
Yes.
All right, so what I've got is the FileMaker robot right here. I'm going to move Jacob's face down here, down near where I'm at. So this is kind of the video here of the FileMaker robot video that we did. And this video has not really changed. So the whole idea, so let me set up the use case of why you need a robot. But before I tell you what a robot is, everyone's like, well, it obviously does. I can tell people, it's like Megan. It's like, a robot, it obviously does. So yeah, I know. Yeah, Megan is very smart. She's learned quite a bit more. So let's explain why it might need to do, because sometimes you create stuff that's really beefy, right? So I'm going to go jump over to FileMaker here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go over here and zoom in a little bit so you can actually see this. And if it works, there we go. And so this is a CRM system that I have. And what we do is a very interesting thing in the CRM. What we do, and my sales guy should use it, but he doesn't really use it, is that as I interact with, say, 75,000 people in the FileMaker community, which is a big chunk of it, we need to score their interaction or how engaged they are with RCC. And the idea was that we want to reach out and talk to the people who are more engaged with us than not really engaged. Does that make sense? So you only have so many cycles for your salesperson, right? I mean, you have only so many cycles, how many people they can call, right? Some of you are like, thank God he can't call me that often, right? So the idea is that you need a way of separating the good leads from the maybe medium leads from the not so good leads, right? So, because there's people who download Starting Point who don't even have FileMaker and they're from Oracle, like Ruben, right? And then they're like, hey, you know? So what ends up happening is that they never get FileMaker. They're not really a good lead, but they show up on our system. We need to differentiate them from someone like TK who is buying our stuff or whatever. He's involved in this and that and the other thing. And so TK is he's a guy, he's in the FileMaker community, and he has money, he's willing to spend it. We want to go after that. Now I'm talking about FileMaker people in this case, yourselves, so you kind of understand what I do. But at the end of the day, this could be about car parts or roofing, right? If you're a roofing contractor or building software or whatever, you want to target the people, you know, you're going to get a bunch of people and you want to target them. So what we do is as we interact with people, we want to give them points. So over here is like, hey, so a positive point makes their score go up, okay? And a negative number makes their score go down. The higher the score, the better it is. So if they're downloading Starting Point, that's fine. If they're an asshole, they get negative 100 points, right? So obviously TK loses 100 points right there automatically, right? If they whine because FileMaker doesn't do something they want and they tell me that I should build it and they demand that I build it for free and train them on it. I've actually had that happen about every 16, 18 months. Someone does that. And I'm like, okay. And they get that, right? So their score goes down, right? And so what happens is a lot of positive things, some negative things. You're done with this, basically, is to come up with a score for the person. Now, if I go to the finished goods system, this is a test record right here. You can see down here, we have this score down here. And what we do is we have the total points they've ever earned down here, right? The total points and the freshness. So what it does is that a point loses a third of its juice every month. And so after 3 months, a point is no longer counts the fresh score. Because you could have someone really high, but they're not really fresh. So I learned all this actually from a company called Marketo. And it was a company that Claris at one point, FileMaker was using to help, because Claris was doing scoring of customer leads too. And so as you interact with someone over here we go, this critical part. As you interact with every related record, you could have interacted with this person 20, 30, 50 times, they get a point for that line item. So these are 0 points, 30 points there. You know, some of these are 3 points, some of them are other points, right? And so what happens is that you have to go through all these, see if the points, if there's like this one right here is an unassigned point. Notice it right here, there's no point assigned to that, right? So for whatever reason, that record on this thing hasn't run since 6/13, which I find very strange. That should have run, Jacob Taylor, right? So there should be a number there.
Yeah,
Maybe.
on Sunday is when that process runs.
Yeah. Oh, that runs on Sundays? That for once a week? It
Yeah.
updates? Okay, so it doesn't update every night. Okay, so what you get into with this situation is that to do this is very intensive. For it to score this person, probably takes it a second or so to do that, whatever the number is, or maybe 2 or 3 seconds or whatever it is. And so what you need to do is you need these scores so these scores all down here at the bottom are not calculation fields. They are number fields that have been pre-calculated in the script. Once again, we talk about this in the design. As you become an intermediate designer, you take all your automatic calculations out of fields It's not a calculation field down here. Otherwise, the whole screen would be chunking and spinning while it's trying to update. As I flip from one record to the next record, to the next record, to the next record. These are all very, very old records in here, right? So this guy had 310. He has no freshness. This guy's not engaged at all, and maybe doesn't exist because he goes back, a bunch of years. And so what happens is that you need a way. So you have processes on your computer that lean design can't even fix this. They're too far gone for that. You need this. So the next step normally be like, I'm going to tell PSauce to do it, right? All right, so that's kind of the conversation. We want PSauce to run a script for us and then come back. But sometimes that's not even good enough. So this gets in the conversation about the robot here, and I'm going to pop this up. I'll kind of, I guess, make it full screen for now. And so we talk about automatic processes like, say, for example, you have a robot that's going to send invoices to people at night or do some sort of process like that. It runs. It does calculations. It does totals. Notice the old icon. We will update that. The idea is that you have labor-intensive things, especially reporting. Reports are historically very labor-intensive. It's better to run those at night and have them cached and ready to go. But who runs the report, right? During the day, if you run it, sometimes we run reports and stuff takes an hour. For the biggest report I have is about an hour and a half at RCC. So it definitely runs in the middle of the night. So the idea is that this thing needs to run at the middle of the night because your robot is over there doing it for you. What is a robot? Well, normally people say, well, we'll have PSauce do it for you, right? See, this is the old logo, old artwork. We got to update that. And you say, well, we should use PSauce or Sassy, right? The problem is if you tell PSauce or Sassy to do it, there are drawbacks. FileMaker Server does have the ability to create PDFs now, but they don't necessarily have the fonts you have. You have to be careful with that, right? You can create PDFs in FileMaker, so that has to be updated. But more importantly than that, the number one issue is that you get into this issue. I'm going to forward here, right here. The process can cause a crash. When you're running a lot of numbers for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, you're doing sub-summaries and calculations, do a bunch of stuff, it's possible to crash a client. A client is Pro, Go, WebDirect, or a process running on the server. And so you can, by running this on the server, actually cause your say this is your FileMaker server. That's not a great icon for it. On the FileMaker server, it can cause a process to die on the FileMaker server, right? And you don't want that to happen. You want the process, this robot, to be a copy of FileMaker Pro running on a computer. And if there's a crash, it takes down that specific Windows client, Mac client, it doesn't matter. That's what you want. You don't want this robot to catch fire on the server, because then you're looking at a potential server restart. Assuming it doesn't totally crash the server, you're looking at a server restart, which is not good, because you're going to have to bump people to get them off there, right? So the whole idea is that if you get it off, disconnected, remember the server is designed to expect clients to crash. FileMaker Server is programmed to expect to see clients crashing and handles that gracefully. If you crash processes, those processes on FileMaker Server, you see us talk about them in other live streams, it doesn't handle that nearly as gracefully at all. It tries, but it's generally, in my opinion, kind of not as successful as it would be otherwise. If you run on Pro, it's just another connected user, and it gracefully disconnects them, right? So there's a conversation going there. Jacob Taylor, you can, you guys got to be careful with the on-timer script step. I'm not the biggest fan of that. You got to be careful with that. So obviously there's a question going on here. So the idea is that, well, once again, I'm showing a demo of what we built here, but you understand the conceptual process, right? So here is a robot process that's running. This is running on a very old system. So the whole idea is that the other thing to keep in mind is that your FileMaker client may get a memory leak. This is one reason why it really makes me nervous to use plugins in a really serious, ongoing, stressful sort of way, because unless you have a really good plugin developer like Christian Schmidt, who does a great job in managing his memory, you can get memory leaks with things, and then you get a crash. A memory leak is just better, you could say, sloppy programming. And when someone builds a plugin, or even FileMaker has a version of Pro that they build sloppily and that crashes, then you have this reliability issue, right? So what we try to do is restart the server at night preemptively. So we don't let the server, the robot run for days and days and days until it falls over, right? We actually try to do a preemptive restart on a nightly basis. So this is where I bring Jacob Taylor into the conversation. I've kind of framed the conversation after about 20 minutes here. Jacob, are you there?
I am here. Yes.
So let's talk about robots and all the kind of questions that go on, how they're activated, how they're not activated, you know, what we use, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. I believe our robot actually uses an on-timer script.
It does, but it's very careful as to what it does.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, but it's very persnickety and particular, and you have to write at like all scripts have to be perfect in a certain way, or the whole thing falls over.
Okay,
basically.
well, we're looking at your black screen right now, so show your face
sorry, let
or
me
your
share
screen or whatever you want to show. Show us something. Show me something, baby.
Let me give you. Well, I can give you our robot, except that our robot just went into a lemur litter routine, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. All right, so this is a live robot that runs most of RCC. When you send an email to support RC Consulting, it goes into an email account. The robot will use a 360 plugin to read the email and to triage that, right? And I've been there when 360 had a memory leak or did something stupid, and I have to call Jesse and yell at him on the phone. And so, once again, I'm kind of a demanding customer. But so what this thing does, it reads in emails, it finds new emails, it loads them in the database. So when we're doing tech support on tech support and support RC Consulting, we're not in an email client. We're in FileMaker managing it. And so we bring it in, it finds your previous record, it sees other conversations, it threads it in so we can kind of see what's going on with you, which is great. Is it still just kind of spinning, or is it stuck, or do we know what happened to it?
It's just sitting there. It does this, yeah.
How long does it just sit for? Because that's
there.
Oh,
now
there
it's
goes.
doing stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So it read 2 emails. It's going to do some cleanup, and then it'll close out. Okay, there you go.
Now we're back to the screen. That's on to the next thing.
There we go. So go ahead and scroll to the top. So this is what we call my RCC script schedule. And so what we do is we identify that scripts that run once a week for whatever reason. We have daily scripts, right? And I did this graphically because I'm a very visual person, so I needed some way of seeing these easily. I had 60 minutes. There's a 5-minute one, 30-minute one. That one doesn't have anything on it.
Down here.
There's a 5 right here. And this tells me that what the script schedule does on timer is it activates a script and it goes through this entire list, and it's checking to see if any of these need to be run based upon the last time they ran, the next time they need to run, or the last is up above, the next is down below, and then if it's kind of gone past its point, trips it, then it adds that to the list and it runs these. So it could run 1 or 2 of these, or run none of them, because the on timer runs every 5 minutes or so, something like that. So every time the on timer runs, it's going to go over here to cat bar if it's going to do something. Is there another 5-minute one, or is that the only 5-minute one?
I don't know, and we can't scroll, so because it's beach balling.
It's beach balling, yeah. So
Yep.
We are in the process of looking at upgrading this machine to 19. We were waiting on some certain stability issues. We think 19.3 or FileMaker 20, as we're loosely referring to it, will be probably a better fit on this for a lot of reasons. Yeah. But anyway, so that's the idea with this. And so the idea, if it beach balls or does something stupid like this, it doesn't affect anyone as long as it doesn't beach ball or do anything stupid for too long. But there does seem to be we know what you ought to think about doing is blowing out the cache on this machine, right? The hidden secret cache, quit FileMaker, and do the Windows cache delete might be. That's why that needs to be a script step on that. I told Claris about that, and they just
Hansa requested it as well, and Hansa did. I couldn't endorse something more quickly on that forum. So, because there's I have problems just day to day as a FileMaker user that are the fundamental issue is FileMaker sitting there messing around with the cache, checking if it's good or not, and it just takes forever. And it would be really cool, on some time scale to be able to just automatically blow it out. But we'd need optimally there'd be a script step or something like that so we can manage it.
All right, so what's next on our topic here about the robot? So the on timer activates, it runs through this list, it finds any of them that have expired that need to run. Then we tell it to run, we don't have to scroll right here, but we tell it to run using an FMP URL, which database to run, what script to run. And we also, I think, put a credential over here on the side. That's why we're not scrolling to the right. We don't want everyone to see our passwords. But the idea is that this machine runs dedicated, and this thing crashes way more than it should. It should crash with a nightly restart. It should crash once a year or something. But right now it crashes about every 10 to 14 days, I would say. It comes up on my radar, and that's way too often. So that tells me there's a memory leak with the Claris product line somewhere. So we have to manually intervene. So the robot, a lot of times I have a robot, so I have an office here, right? So I'm gonna take my camera here, I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, right? So this is, I'm gonna kind of show you behind the scenes here, so no one hold this over my head too much. So here's like the broadcast machine, right? So say I was working over here doing a bunch of work, then here's like my main development engineering. I would frequently put the robot, I don't know if it's over here running, can I wake this computer up? I'd put the robot like on this machine over here on the back, maybe on a smaller monitor, so I can kind of keep an eye on it. Whoa, hey, it's running a Star Trek episode. Cool. So so the point is that you could keep an eye on it, right? And so, but for maximum performance, you want the robot next to the FileMaker server, which frequently is on Amazon, right? So it gets to this issue of visibility of looking at it, because if you look at it and it's motoring and the windows are flashing and stuff's happening, you know it's running, right? That's kind of useful, right? Like a little tacit, tactile kind of feeling. You could feel it, it's running, right? But then I went on vacation. I took a sabbatical and went off, was learning how to fly helicopters about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And I was gone for 4 months, and the rest of the people run the company. And so the robot, Jacob hijacked the robot and loaded it in the cloud. So we can't really watch it anymore very easily, but the performance is way up, and it's running on Amazon, so it should be more reliable, right? So it's kind of one of those that you have to think about where you would want it. If I was building the robot process like from scratch, I would probably build it right on my desk. And so code it over here, test it over here, code it over here, test it over here. And then that way you can watch it. And then once you think it's dialed in, then look at whether you want to move it up to Amazon or wherever your data center is. So Jacob, what do you have? Where do you want to jump in on the conversation here? Because I've been talking mostly.
Well, we covered the main benefit and downside of a robot, which is it makes whatever business process the robot is operating entirely separate from the server. One of the issues that we have run into, and some customers will say learn the hard way, basically. So some of your processes where you'll say, hey, we should make a scheduled script for that. And for example, it's these days it's a lot safer than it used to be honest. But we still
kinda, right? Go and finish your thought, but I want to offer a rebuttal on that.
Rebuttal to it. Okay, cool. So at least from what I have observed, it is safer these days to run things on the server side. However, the same set of problems still exist, which is, let's say, for example, you want to email customers that you've recently interacted with at, we'll say 2 p.m., right, sometime in the afternoon. And all your thing does is it goes and gathers, goes through your database, finds those people, creates an email for each of them and like sends it out. Maybe you use 360 works. Maybe you use the built-in, native send via email script step. So the problem with that and what can happen is when that process is talking to those, either using the plugin or using those third-party services, it can end up in a situation where it crashes. And then you have lost PSOS on the server until it comes back up again. And that will also take down other things that were running at the same time. And so it depending on how badly it goes, it can be somewhat calamitous for that to fail. Whereas if you're doing whatever that process is in some side of a robot, cool, FileMaker Pro somewhere crashes basically, and the tree falls in the wood. Did it make a noise? Well,
yeah, this is great. You're doing
your
great.
Thing falls off.
Can you switch to DBW shit? Any DBW of ours. Let's look at the processes here because
Oh, sure.
what happens is because you and I are here every day, but some people like maybe David Angel missed today where we looked at the processes. Let's look at a FileMaker server and look at the processes again on your computer.
Hold on. I'm gonna give you. We can use the stream one. Hold up, that's easier.
If it's running, yeah.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, virtual machine is fine. Once again, if you're going to build it initially, I tend to want to build it on my desk. So I have a Mac here, another Mac over here, Windows, doesn't matter, figure out. So this is very important. So those of you not following this conversation, you are looking at a FileMaker server. The FileMaker server is not a single piece of software. It's a collection of small programs that Claris, and this is normal for any company, it's when they buy a product, it's typically not one program, it's a bunch of programs that are working together. So if I draw over here on the screen, and it's kind of motoring around and moving around, this and 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 a couple other ones, that's all FileMaker server, right? And so when you say, oh, I want the server to run a script for me in PSOS or SASE, it's going to take this, it moved, damn it, I don't want to move. So the one says script engine, that one right there, it's going to take that and use it. And in the event that you ask it to do a really gnarly script, it doesn't have to be an gnarly script, but say if you tell it to run a 10-second script or a 20-second script, you're probably never going to have an issue. But if you tell it to run a script that takes hours to execute, and Claris didn't code their application perfectly, this process can crash. Literally, it dies and goes away. It's not responsive. Whatever the issue is, it's dead. So now, what is the status of your FileMaker server? Your FileMaker server is probably running, but all the PSOSs are dead. All the SASEs are dead, and the backups are probably still running, probably, but you've got this very serious problem. Your server now is kind of impaired and leaning towards a crash. And so you have to either restart this service because you're awesome like Jacob Taylor and you get a command line. Remember we had the command line webinar. We talked about this in the command line. Go back to the live stream on command line from the last week or two. And so you're trying to resuscitate this. It's had a heart attack. You got your paddles out there, maybe 400 megajoules, and and you put the paddles on the heart of the server and trying to resuscitate it. Good luck. That may or may not work. If you have Jacob working with you, maybe you get there. If you have me working with you, my inclination is just hit the restart on the damn thing and then clean it up on the back side, assuming it can be cleaned up. So understand that unnecessarily, if you run a big process on your server, you're unnecessarily exposing yourself to danger. What you do is this is the FileMaker server, and then you have another user machine, FileMaker Pro, on Mac or Windows, whatever, through the network, a totally separate piece of hardware. It could be a virtual machine. I'm not going to get into that. That's fine. It works fine. But it's separate. And so that runs. It does the process for you. And if it crashes over here, this don't give it. It just disconnects. It goes, hey, you're not there anymore. I'm going to disconnect you. Right? And then the server is not in any way damaged, in danger. You have to restart it. You got to call your tech guy. You just go to the robot. It's basically you have a nothing more than a FileMaker user like Sally in marketing who's crashed her computer. And what do you tell her to do? Restart the computer. That's how you resuscitate this. The danger is much lower. So SASE, S-A-S-E, server assisted script execution. It's not S-A-S-S-Y or whatever. Yeah, so Jacob just put that in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the other nice upsides actually of using a robot is it's FileMaker Pro. And what that means is it will probably do what you programmed it to, because you can look at it while whatever this process is that you're running is running. So like Richard talked about earlier, having a left side test machine and a right side production version or something like that, where you're actually using the thing. It's actually much easier to do development that way, especially if you particularly have challenges with conceptualizing like the script running on the server, because there's a bunch of additional requirements for that. You have to be perfect about all the context and everything, because there's no client to fix it for you. If you're running on the server, you're running half blind, because it's not a user. Yeah. It's not a user operated thing.
There's no monitor. There's no monitor connected to. Yeah, there is FileMaker Pro on the server. It's called SASE and PSOP, but it runs headless with no monitor, and you can't see it. And you better hope you programmed it right, or it runs wild. What do you got here, Jacob? What is this? What are we looking at?
This is my hosting database. It is my tiny version. Yes, Smokey, our robot is on AWS. It is my tiny robot. You see RCC's big robot in the back. We have, some 33 scheduled scripts built into it, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, daily, hourly, etc. Mine is much smaller and much less ambitious than that. It is a single on-timer script with a single script that fires a second script. There's 3 total. That's it. And what mine does is, so when we set up a server for you all, especially the Windows AWS machines, FileMaker servers for clients, there is a metrics collector that gets put in there, and it just keeps some basic, like, is your hard drive full, is FileMaker server particularly unhappy, and some other kind of basic performance details, and those get reported back to us. And one of the things I wanted to look for is, because we've fixed, I think at this point, many of the reliability issues. I don't get screaming and crying customers terribly often anymore about my server fell over and I need rescuing and this sort of thing. Obviously, it still happens occasionally, but much less often than back when. And so as one of my sort of like initiatives was to go and try and figure out how we could detect when not servers were crashed, but when servers are unhappy. And they need a little help. Maybe they should be a bigger size. Maybe their hard drive's full and I just need to go poke the customer and say, hey, can we expand your backup drive? You need more room for backups. Stuff like that. And so the thing that I built is there's the metrics actually flow into the customer database. So your metrics for your machine are actually like associated with our client, whoever that is. And so I can go through in my database and look and find, all right, all the servers are reporting metrics, and then within each metric you can look and see, all right, is the server healthy or not? And I'm not going to talk about like how you would detect that or whatever, but that data comes in and we can look at it. And so what my thing does is what this little robot does is it goes through and it checks all the servers that are supposed to be reporting metrics, and it confirms that they are in fact reporting metrics. It's not super complicated. The basics of the script is it loops through records and does a bunch of finds. And it just confirms that, you have a found set of the number of records you're expecting, basically. And if you don't, that gets put in this, there's a little field that you can't see on screen, but it makes a relationship. And then this thing in the dead center that says currently RCC spot spoke C, that server has been unhappy for weeks at this point, actually. I think there's something honestly going wrong with that Amazon region or something like that. But that is the enterprise sync group
is that
we
one
set up.
That's one having a problem. Okay, so
that's the European one. Yep.
Is it running though? We need that to run.
It is.
Okay, but
it is running.
But your metrics are showing it's unhappy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it looks like it is behaving as though it has run out of credits.
Wow.
Which is
a totally separate conversation. So yeah.
Yeah. As I say, once you get past a certain number of, I need to do this process every so often, it becomes immediately like, oh, I should build a robot, or I should, something like that. All right. So, and then all the script does. So I said the data comes in, it's attached to the people. We go through and look at it and make sure there are kind of like the expected number of records involved. If there are not, it gets put in this list. And what that list is it's just a multi-key relationship field. You can put multiple keys on new lines or whatever and relate them out to, in this case, servers. And so then I have a GTRR button and a title of the server, and like that's all that's in the portal.
So to be clear, this isn't about Jacob's blue boxes and orange boxes and red boxes, because this makes more sense to Jacob than anyone else, but it's his database. But what I want to point out is that he has a process that has to report back that things are happy or not happy, and it's not easy to do that without a script running, and it's better just to have a dedicated machine running. So if you come back over here, I see flashing over here. So this thing is spinning up, checking, doing things over here, and then
it's already completed whatever that check was.
So if you send an email to us at support, it goes in there, and we never see it until the robot grabs it and drags it into the database, right? So, and then once again, we built these for internal usage. They're not designed with NIC level, user beauty involved, right? I just need to make it visually so I'd understand. So wait, so far on this robot, I have 33 processes that I've set up that run over the course of the week. That's a lot of stuff. That's a lot of stuff. And then, of course, some of them I think are probably turned off. Like this one up here is disabled for whatever reason. So, robot. So the PSOS is faster than robot. PSOS and SASE are basically the same thing. Both run on the FileMaker server. We showed that as a process on the FileMaker server. They are going to be by far faster, okay? But if they crash, they're likely to take the whole server down with it. So you have to decide how important that is to you. I think in the scheme of things, trying to rip it out as fast, like the lead scoring for me, right? Does it have to be done as fast as possible? No, I mean, the salespeople, if we had multiple salespeople, would look at lead scoring and they'd look at once a day or whatever. So maybe it only runs at midnight every night or once a week or whatever, because the numbers don't change that much, right? So speed's not the ultra issue, right? Like if I run if I cache a report for like my boss's boss, if there was such a thing up there, right? Say Claris wants to see a report from me on how many awesome live streams we're doing versus the number of live streams that they're doing, right? I have a chart I give them, right? It shows Richard, all these live streams, Claris live streams, like one a month or something, right? And so they want me to chart that. Would be a funny chart. But I run it at night. Does it matter that it took it 10 minutes to run or 30 minutes to run? If it running at night, it doesn't matter. So it's not, you got to look at the objectives, right? And the relative risk reward return for that, right? So
some of the processes, actually, if they're financial in nature, you will want them to run not more slowly, but more carefully, which often means more slowly. Especially if it's, like our invoicing system sends stuff out in the morning. And like that process actually runs pretty quick now. But that's due to improvements that we've made inside our own database to facilitate that. So
Agent Chevy asks a question. It's a good question. It's off topic, but it's fine. We're kind of I mean, basically this is kind of this. I mean, everyone's going to build the robot a little differently, but so we're largely kind of, to some degree, kind of coming to the end of the conversation. So Agent Chevy says, FileMaker server AWS question. So basically, like one of our AWS servers, he says, how does upscaling work on a FileMaker hosted Amazon database work? For example, I have an EC2 instance, which is a virtual instance on Amazon. So it's basically saying he has a pretend FileMaker or a pretend Windows or Linux server. But it feels real, it runs real, it seems real, you pay for it, so it's real money. It's running slow and I need to upgrade to a bigger one. So he has a micro. He has a micro and he wants to move up to an extra large, which would be a huge jump. Do I need to reinstall FileMaker server on the new EC2? Jacob Taylor.
No, you do not.
What is loosely, what is the process for that?
Yeah. So irrespective of the operating system, because it actually doesn't matter on Amazon, to change the size, you have to shut the machine down first. So my like written directions in Discord over here, you want to turn your FileMaker server off. Go and close the databases, shut FMS down, whatever. But shut the machine off like you're turning the power off. If it were a computer in front of you, turn it off. And then you're going to go into the Amazon, what I think they call the billing console, but it's the EC2 area.
I mean, we got time. Can you log on to EC2 for us right now? Some of these people.
Yeah, you want to see all ours?
Yeah. I mean, well, let's see some of this, right? Because this is a little different. I'll go full screen. So for those of you who wondered about Amazon, so once again, these are data centers, and they have, okay, so let me frame this real quick so everyone's on the same page. Most of you are like, duh, Richard. Amazon buys refrigerator-sized servers with like 100, 200 processors in them, whatever, and like terabytes of RAM, never mind the drives. And what they do is that refrigerator-sized system is a $25,000 system, but in there is 100 or 200 or 300 or 500 virtual machines. So they virtually, in memory, set up all these different servers that are running, each with entirely their own operating system, Linux, Windows version, whatever. And so that's what they do. They take these giant, or their blade servers, whatever they are, they're on racks. And when you go to Amazon, you almost never just buy a real piece of hardware like that piece of hardware, like you carve your initials in the front, right? And you go back and you keep visiting your same piece of hardware. Most of the time you're buying a slice of a server that lives somewhere in the giant building. And if you have to restart the server for some reason frequently, that Amazon instance will come up on a different box, on a different aisle, on a different rack somewhere, right? It doesn't necessarily be the same piece of hardware, right? And so what we're doing is logging onto our control console to see the virtual servers that we have purchased, we're actually renting on a month-to-month basis, and what their status is. So that's what Jacob is showing us. So Jacob, what do we do? We're going to press, what, EC2? Is that what we push?
Yeah, you go to EC2. That is their Elastic Compute Cloud, which is their name for the virtual machines, basically. And then we come in here and we see nothing yet, because you'd have to go to the actual instances to see anything.
An instance is a server, basically, right? An instance is a server. So this could say servers running. We have 9 servers running, okay? Elastic IP, basically, as funny as this is, that's our static address, okay? So we have 9 servers, and we bought separately for each of the servers its own static address. So there's one address for each server, and then this has to do with tokens and authentication. And snapshot is when they take an entire snapshot backup. They literally, it's like a snapshot of the entire hard drive, and it gets written to another hard drive somewhere else, if that makes any sense.
And that can be used for backup or restoration or stuff like that.
Yeah.
We always warn people you have to be careful with that, and there's a bunch of asterisks on that, but that's the basic idea.
Yeah.
The reason actually that we have 730 snapshots is because one of my experiments was when they first introduced not the pre-release version, but the official release version of FileMaker Server for now CentOS Linux, which is I suppose unsupported at this point, or very shortly to be. I set up snapshot-based backups for that server, and then set it up so that it'll, it makes I don't know, a backup every 20 minutes or something like that. Whatever is basically trying to copy the FileMaker Cloud concept of keeping 20-minute backups for a certain period of time and then automatically deleting them after they're a certain age, and you can make Amazon now manage that entire process, which I think actually was not straightforward or not strictly possible when Claris first built the first version of FileMaker Cloud. But they now have what are called lifecycle management rules for snapshots, and so you can just age them out. Like they get a certain level of old, and we don't need them anymore. You get rid of it. And I don't have to manage that. Basically Amazon manages that whole thing for
Christian Schmidt wants to know: do we close databases before doing the snapshots?
Yes, you must.
Yes and no.
You won't get a useful snapshot of an open database if you don't pause it at least.
Yes. But if you have backups on the boot drive, then those would be preserved on the snapshot. So once again,
correct.
That's back to backups.
Yeah. Yep.
It's kind of off topic. I'll let you take the question from David Angel. I don't know why, but he wants to know why we have 20.
No, key pairs are not certificates. No, key pairs are for Windows, for example. Key pair, when you create a system on Amazon, an instance as they're called, you get a key associated with it. Without that key, if you delete it or lose it or something like that, you can no longer control in an administrative fashion the computer. You can shut it down, you can reboot it and stuff that you could do from this console. But if it came with for example, an administrator password pre-programmed into it, the way that you get that back out of Amazon is to present to them the key. If you don't have the key
is a text file. So it's a you would say basically if it said super secret text file that you should never lose, and if you lose your password, you'll probably lose this too, so don't be stupid, is what this should say in here. But super secret text file. And so that's what we have 20 of them generated, so it allows us to access various things. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reason that we have 20 of them is because they don't go away automatically if you get rid of an old machine. And the way that I've set up most of the stuff that we do at RCC since I took over is everything is new keys. We don't reuse the keys. And so there are old keys in there, basically. The short version is there's keys to old stuff. They're still logged into the account, basically. Like Amazon is still aware of its existence or whatever, but they may not actually be associated with a running machine, a service that we used, whatever. whatever the reason was that the key pair got generated.
So go ahead and click on instances and show us our servers. That way people
Sure.
This is a little bit abstract.
Yep. So we have a bunch of them.
So each one of these, for the most part, is a FileMaker server. Probably.
Almost all of them, yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that are not is the top one. That's a robot. These are all labeled. So this is the VPN. That's a robot. This is the main server. This is our West Coast development server. This is a test server with a beta version of FileMaker server that doesn't exist. This is the Linux or the CentOS Ubuntu. Sorry, not Ubuntu, CentOS server that I mentioned previously.
Oh.
This is the Stream FileMaker server that we're always bringing up. And then all of our websites are actually on this. A bunch of them talk to the FileMaker server right here, but they're actually hosted on a separate machine, basically.
What can we do? What can we do to our servers here? I think can't we restart them or do something like that from here, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do any of that. Let's see, that one's not damaging. So you can do stream FMS. So instant state, you can stop it. That's like hitting the power button on the front. Reboot, same thing. Terminate destroys the machine.
It shuts it down and deletes it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, shuts it down and deletes it, and usually deletes most things associated with it, like the hard drives or stuff like that. So, Agent Chevy, yes, you can stop it and you can upscale it. You can also stop it and downscale it if you want to go the other direction. So.
Yeah, do that on the that one right there. You want to Can you? How hard is it to downsize that one? Can we downsize that one?
Yes, but give me 2 seconds because you're gonna run into a problem really fast, which is that the RAM cache is set to a certain size on this server. Size, sorry, equals 512. We'll set it back to the default. There we go. All right, cool. That just happened live. Also, you guys just got to watch FileMaker server downsize its RAM usage live on air. I like demonstrating that for people because it's cool that you can do it. So I'm going to shut. This is the stream OP1, so I'm going to set it. We're going to do shutdown, and I don't need a reason. It's just going to go away. I didn't close the databases. I'm not doing any of that. We could, obviously, and you should if it's your, company. But we'll sit here, and then shortly this thing will say. Sorry, where's our box? There it is. So shortly this thing will say not running, but shutting down, and then stopped. And once it's stopped, we can change change the size.
Do we have a reservation for that one right now, or do we need to buy a reservation? Something?
If we keep it around for long enough, yeah. Right now it gets turned on and off as needed. We have other stuff that would probably buy a reservation for first because they're kind of guaranteed. There it is. All right. So, and we're filtered by running, which is why it's no longer in the list. So if I get rid of the filter for running, you now see stream FMS is stopped. So now we can adjust. So the instance type is a T3X large. That is as powerful as the main server that runs all of our stuff. So it's it's beefy, but whatever. So we can go and change that. So we have actions, and we can go, and there's different. This is the manage instance state. That's the thing over here. So obviously now we have start and then terminate still. There's additional details you can view, but instance settings is the big one here. So we pop this out. There's a bunch of different options here that are like internal Amazon settings, basically. But the one being asked about is change instance type. And the type is like how much horsepower does it have? So we'll click on that. And here's our machine. We got a little couple details about it. And we have a T3X large, and it gives us all these options. There's so many options.
Can we go down? Go down one side?
Go down one. So just an X large to a large.
To a large, yeah. That way it won't.
Yeah, let's go. So we're going to go from a T3X large. Technically, we're going to go up, but down in size to a T3 large. We're going to hit apply. We're going to come back to the list, and that will have applied. I always wait a couple seconds with everything on Amazon. Wait 15 seconds, whatever. Their computer systems are really, really big, and there are lots of computers involved. And I only encourage people to basically be patient with Amazon in general, because often you will ask for something from Amazon, and that is not you asking for something. That is you asking another computer to put that thing in its queue. whatever you've just asked for. And so if it hasn't made it through whatever its little chunk of work right now is, you're going to be like, well, I just clicked that thing. Why doesn't it show up? It hasn't gotten to it yet, basically. So, and there I've talked long enough, so I'm confident with that. So then we just hit, instance state, start, boonk, and we have, and that's why I say things don't happen immediately. So it tells me that it successfully started that, but the state is pending.
Yeah, pending. So we're kind of like waiting. So
and that is, and there it just updated to running. So it was pending launch because I don't turn the server on. I put it in some computer at Amazon. There's a computer at Amazon whose job it is to launch machines. And so what I have done is I've requested that thing boot our Stream FMS now, basically. You could actually request them boot at a future time too.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is that odds are we were on one rack on one machine, and now we could be probably in a different floor of the building.
Different building.
On different rack or different building because we asked for something else. Or we could be provisioned differently on the same machine. Who the hell knows? But a really good chance that we have moved. Physically, the server has moved. But we don't know. We had managed it through here. This is why this stuff is so cool. So, anyway. All right, cool. Well, lots of neat stuff. I got Ellen the Lobster shows up at the very end of it, which we miss Ellen. Where is the building server farm? Okay, you want to explain regions real quick?
Sure.
To people?
Yeah, I just wanted to show this is the Stream PC. We just resized it. This will say T3X large for a moment until it updates. And here in a moment it'll update and then it'll say T3 large.
Okay.
Amazon takes time, basically.
Yep.
Same thing.
So what is
there
so there it goes. It's on the bigger side. So Scott King wants to know where the server, where's the building, where's the server farm? If as if it was just one, right? I mean,
yes,
I guess that's
as if it were just one.
Yes.
So, all right. So we'll break it down from a slightly higher level. So to directly answer the question, the southern end of the Bay Area in California. That's where the servers are. Everything that we're looking at right now is in what is called Amazon's Northern California region. And so, but it's a region, and that word is useful as a descriptor because it's not one building. It's probably not even 5. It may be 100 or more. I don't know. But it is a lot of them. And so in a region, which is just, West Coast California, okay, NorCal here by Santa Clara, that's one region. And so there's a whole bunch of data centers over there that are, US West 1 is the name of that region. Within a region, which is just all of those buildings, there are then subsets of the buildings, which are called availability zones. And there are, I think, 3 to 5 or 6 different availability zones, and those are basically little buckets. So let's take the example of, well, I don't know if there are, but we'll use some fake numbers here. We'll say, all right, Northern California region for Amazon, they've got 100 data centers that run that whole thing. Okay, so we'll say that they have 4 makes easy math. We'll do 4 availability zones. I think it's more than that, but it doesn't matter. And so each of those 4 availability zones are, they're going to split 100 buildings by 4. So you have 25 data centers in each availability zone. So what that lets you do, and the reason for that is because if I wanted, for example, if I wanted to make sure that we had a level of redundancy in an area, so you have like different machines that are physically separate from each other, but they're still in the same geographic region. I can put different computers in different availability zones, different buckets of those. In our example, 25 different data centers, right? We don't know which data center, we don't know which rack, we don't know which row, which server, we don't know any of those details. Amazon, one of the wonderful parts of cloud computing is that we don't have to care actually. Amazon abstracts that whole thing away from us. So it's a detail we don't have to care about. Okay. All we're going to say is we're going to say, hey, Amazon, I need this thing to run, in NorCal, and I need another thing to also run in NorCal, but they need to be 100% separate from each other. Okay. We can indicate that to Amazon. We can do that by taking, server 1 and putting it into the first availability zone, and we can take server 2 and we can put it into the second availability zone. And then we can, by doing that, guarantee that our servers are in different data centers, basically.
Yeah. So it's not only which. Yeah. So when you say which building, is it as high as 100 buildings? I'd be shocked. Is it that many?
Oh, honestly, Virginia is hundreds, plural.
No, hundreds of buildings. Wow.
Yeah, they routinely have 5 to 10 data centers under construction at a time. The scale of Amazon is not, frankly, like reasonably comprehensible to like regular people. It's like I have problems dealing with it. It's that big, and so I have to find the article. Maybe I can send it to everybody. There was a great article a few years ago where someone went out and did like. I thought it was perfect. They went out and they went to the Virginia region, which someone asked, David Angel asked if it's the main region. Probably I wouldn't frame it that way, but that's probably an accurate statement. But it is at least the biggest because it is the oldest. It's called US East 1. And it is an ancient region. It's literally where Amazon started. Yeah, I think we have like one tiny thing running over there or something, but so we're US West 1 here. And so US East 1 is Virginia. Virginia. So, all right. So the article I was talking about is, somebody went out and tried to, do the thing where you figure out like, what is Amazon? Where are the buildings? Can we go like, say hi to the security guys at the data center or whatever, go out on foot in your car, and find the buildings. And they could, because we have some of the mailing addresses and stuff that people have figured out, but there's just so many. There's an entire region in Northern Virginia, and it's I don't mean an Amazon region, I mean a literal, like a geographic region, in Northern Virginia, and it's all data centers. And some of them are Amazon, and some of them are other companies that run big data centers. I'm sure Microsoft and Google and whatever, all the big companies, they have stuff there. And it's because they have customers over there, and maybe they talk to Amazon too, and this, that, and the other thing. But it is a frankly incomprehensible number of both just to start data centers, and then God forbid you actually look at how many servers are in each one of those.
There is a separate region for NetLobster points out. There is a separate region for the Department of Defense, the U.S.
Yeah, they have GovCloud is what it's called. Yeah.
Well, very impressive day. So it was a good question. It's almost like we ought to take this and come back and hammer on this a little bit more, right? Maybe not so much setting up the FileMaker server, but wrestling with
just going through Amazon.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
reservations, because Oregon Dean was talking about reservations too, and there's a lot of good stuff in here.
And there's 2 different ones, actually. If you were going to do reservations, you can see them both over here on the left side of my screen. There are reservations, which is a reserved instance, and then there's also savings plans, which are really useful. And like you have to run the math and see which one's better for you. But yeah.
Okay, I was unaware of savings plans, so I'll have to go check that out.
They're more flexible. Like reservations, they're persnickety for users, because you have to like match everything up. For example, if we did the stream FileMaker server, the reservation would be a Windows 1, and then it's specific to US West 1 or something like that. And so we'd have in this case, would be a T3 large for 1 year, Windows, US West 1. Yeah. Okay. But that's kind of specific. Whereas a savings plan is like, we're not 100% sure, but we want a 30% discount on any T3s that we rent.
Well, that's the kind of stuff that we would need, I think, almost, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
they're somewhat equivalent. We'll probably move over to savings plans at some point. Okay. The money's about the same either way. It just makes it a lot easier to match things up in an obvious way, which that's useful because it means that you are more on top of saving yourself money, basically. The functionality of these things is you're telling Amazon, hey, I'm going to use an amount of resources over the next year or 3 or whatever. And they go, okay, cool, we can plan for that capacity usage. And they give you a discount for it. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's Oregon Dean's being funny, but the question is how much does RCC spend on Amazon? How many servers do we have, and how much do we spend on a per month basis? I think it was like $1,200-$1,500 a month. What do we spend?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's we have more than we're looking at here. I think it's maybe 12 total, or no, because we have the 3 also. So there's 2 or 3 others in this account, so like 11 there, and then there's 3 for the 360 Works network. That's on a different account actually, but yeah, so we have like 15, and then I think total our primary Amazon bills in the 1200s range, 1200, 1250.
So
and then we pay another 100 and something for the other one.
For Oregon Dean, we don't front in the customer bills when the customer set up the servers. We've set up for customers probably close to 300 FileMaker servers, if not more, on Amazon. But we don't run those and then resell them. People pay for our time, and then they can pay Amazon the credit card directly. We don't want to get in between that. But yeah, if you were a big hosting business and you thought you could save 30% on your hosting business, yeah, you could probably write a check for Helicopter just about. If you're a customer 501c3, which means a registered nonprofit, you can get great savings at TechSoup.org.
Yeah, you get a bunch of free. Yeah, if you're a nonprofit or something like that, you should go bother TechSoup. They give excellent discounts.
All right, that's it for today, folks. I appreciate everyone being here. Hopefully we can find a way of getting Ellen out of jail. She's on parole for armed robbery, but they let her out on a work release program just for today. Hopefully we can get her out tomorrow. That would be awesome. If so, she can be here with us. That would be great. All right, see you.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10. Rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.